So the question for us today on our first Sunday of Lent is, what is our pacifier? What is this thing that each one of us does for a quick fix when we feel that emptiness inside? Instead of turning to God and kind of filling ourselves up, we tend to turn to other things that just pacify us. And there's a lot of quick answers. Some people seek food, comfort food, like warm bread or warm soup. Or, I'm a coffee addict. I seek a warm cup of coffee for like a comfort, or warm tea. Other people drink alcohol. Kind of try and fill yourself up at any spot. Some people it's sex. It's something that kind of puts your mind off things and you get a, initially good high type of thing. Then it gets to drugs, prescription drugs for some people, and non-prescription drugs for others. Whatever that thing is that helps us escape that empty feeling is what I'm talking about as a pacifier today. Some people oversleep. Now I know oversleeping is sometimes a sign of depression, but some people just want to stay in bed and avoid their problems. That also is a pacifier. Anything that helps us avoid our responsibilities when we know we should get going and take care of those things, those are our pacifiers. And as part of Lent, we have 40 days, actually from Ash Wednesday, last Wednesday, to Easter. We have 40 days to look inside ourselves, and I'd like you to name in your heart or in your mind what your pacifier is. What is that thing that's kind of holding you back from God, where you just go for the quick fix and not for just sitting down and talking with God? Jesus today in the gospel is tempted 3 times. And in this theme of pacifier, you can see the things that happen to him. So imagine Jesus out in the desert for 40 days. Whether that's a literal 40 days or just a figurative 40 days, it says that he was famished. And so what does the evil one do? What is the temptation, the first one that comes to him? The first one that comes to him is food. And the evil one, or the devil, says to him, make bread out of stones. So it's not, and Jesus says no to that. I don't think he really meant to say no to food. I think he meant, no, I am not going to do something that you're asking me to do, to take stones and make them bread. I'm not going for the quick fix. So that was the way he got through that one. He just said, no way. Sometimes in our lives, we're tempted to make bread, the figurative bread, which is money, by cheating people out of what's theirs. And I think Jesus is kind of teaching us by example today that don't cheat God. Give to God what's God, and give to people what belongs to other folks. And Jesus comes back and says, one does not live by bread alone. And we could substitute the word money. One does not live by money alone. In other words, put money in its proper perspective. Use it when you need it, but don't make it your God. And later on, as we know in the Gospels, as we get through the year, we'll hear that Jesus is the bread of life. And Jesus relies on his Father to feed him. And we'll find those themes as we go throughout the year. The next temptation for Jesus is the temptation for power. Tempted by power and control, Jesus says no again. He clearly decides he is not put in this world to rule it. My theory about Jesus, and maybe I'm not the only one, is that Jesus didn't just know he was God from the time he was born. I have the feeling, and it's all speculation, but I have the feeling that as he grew up, he started to understand there's something different about me, and he grew into being the Messiah. And I think part of this temptation in the desert is Jesus finally deciding and wondering and figuring out what he's going to do in his life, in his public ministry. Now remember, he was just baptized. So you would think that, he had all the answers. But somehow the Spirit, even after he was baptized, the Spirit leads him to the desert to these three temptations. And the Messiah in the days of Jesus' time, the Jews thought that the Messiah was going to be a ruler that would take over and beat the Romans, would be an earthly ruler. And so throughout the gospel, you see Jesus saying, no, I'm not that guy. That's not, I know you all think that, but that's not what I'm here for. So Jesus says no when he's tempted by power and control. He's not going to be an earthly king. And he could have been, right? But he says no. His kingdom is not of this world, is what he tells Pontius Pilate, but 3 years later, right? He realizes that power is something that you can use to help people, not just power for power's sake. So again, second time around, Jesus says no. Now the third temptation, I would call fantasy. Because the temptation is, he's on top of this temple over Jerusalem, and the evil one says, throw yourself off, and the angels will catch you. And he says, no, don't test God. And fantasy, I'm not talking about watching a Disney movie or Avatar. I'm talking about fantasizing about things that direct you down the wrong road. I'm talking about your mind is not balanced. I'm talking about things that lead you, and I'll take a little tip from the 12 steps of alcoholics, AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. When you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you tend to do things that you shouldn't do. You tend to go to that pacifier, that quick fix. HALT, it's called, H-A-L-T. Hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, you tend to do things that you shouldn't do. And that's when you get into fantasy and your brain says, oh, it's okay to do this time, and it's okay to do this that time. And then all of a sudden you develop a bad habit. That's what I'm talking about. And you'll notice on TV especially, when the advertisements are selling cars, the newest computer, the newest phone, whatever it is, the advertiser will always say, you deserve this. You're entitled to this. You worked so hard. You should have this. And the fantasy, if we get sucked into those ads, are yes, I work hard, so I deserve this. Now, if you work hard and you make the good money and you can afford it, great. But if you don't, you're fantasizing. Right? So, anything like that. So, in Jesus' case, throw yourself off the temple, the angels will catch you. Well, that's fantasy. Could he have done it? Yes. He says, yeah, but the other saying is, don't test the Lord your God. In other words, I know where my boundaries are. I have to stay within my boundaries. My job is not to test God. My job is to be God for all these people. Be responsible to my people that I'm going to go teach and lead and preach to. So Jesus just knocks down each one of those temptations. Today, what I want you to do is to name your pacifier. Just think about what is that thing when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. Or add an S, sick. Sometimes if you're sick, you get off balance and you think the wrong things.